everybody. Welcome to another episode of Star Lives Confidential. For today's segment, I am welcoming back returning guest Ted Kendrick from Watchtower Database.
It's me. How's it going? Thanks for having me, Brian.
Thank you for coming to the show, and you're welcome. As for today's segment, just going to be going over some of the recent DC releases that have been coming out these past few months and what we'll be expecting towards the future.
There's a lot of it, and I love just rambling about DC stuff.
That's all I want to ask for you guys. Despite the COVID-19 shutdown, are you guys still able to do produce your content and everything?
It's actually, I feel like despite COVID, we've had an increase in viewership too. Um, and like our Patreon page is growing. Our subscription base on YouTube is growing too. So it's actually been fairly positive, all things considered, as far as channel growth. But we're also lucky to have the Batman: The Adventures Continue comic books coming out right now. And they're coming out every other week on DC's like digital distribution. You can get them on I think it's shopdcentertainment.com or comicsology.com. But it's those are the continued adventures written by Alan Burnett and Paul Dini with art by Ty Templeton. So those comics coming out every 2 weeks have given us like we've got a video guaranteed every 2 weeks so that we can talk about the latest issue. And it's a lot of fun because it's bringing in characters like Deathstroke, Red Hood, Azrael, and other people that we didn't get to see in the cartoons into the DC animated universe continuity. So we've got that, and then like in between those, we're kind of still doing our whatever DCAU related content that we feel like putting out. This might be dated depending on when this episode drops on your channel, but we're about to put out an interview with animation director Sam Liu, who did a bunch of he directed a bunch of stuff for the DC animated original movies, like the Justice League vs. Fatal Five, Batman and Harley Quinn. He did Gods and Monsters, and so much of the so many of them.
Yeah, I always see his name on a bunch of these movies, whether it's like writing or directing. I believe definitely Public Enemies was he directed that one.
That's very possible. Like I said, he directed like almost half of those videos. And he does a bunch of stuff for Marvel too. So we interviewed him about a year ago, and it took us that long to actually like get around to putting the interview out, which is really kind of unexcusable. We should have put this one out a lot faster, but it's coming out. So between Adventures Continue, we've got that interview. We're working on some other videos right now, I just wrote the basis of a script to talk about what the Rand Thanagar War might look like in the DC animated universe, because there were little hints dropped about that in the Justice League versus Fatal Five movie. It's kind of implied that Hawkgirl and Jon Stewart and maybe even Martian Manhunter are off doing a DCAU version of the Rand Thanagar War. So that's one that we're gonna put out pretty soon. I'm doing more casting call videos. That's like where we look at a specific voice actor and their not just their DC animated characters that they play, but their entire acting careers. So we've put out a few videos like that recently on Mark Hamill, and I think Susan Eisenberg might have been the one before. But I've also got two underway. One on Tara Strong, who has the biggest voice acting career like that I've ever seen. Like it took me way too long, way too long to write that script and like figure out exactly like she's been so many different characters. And also Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., who played Alfred in the Batman the Animated Series. So those are two other videos I've got in the works right now.
Very nice. So for the casting call, do you go with the actors when you explore their career? Is it just within DC related stuff, whether it's in continuity with the DCAU or just a majority of their career?
So I picked them because they played some DCU character. That's why they're featured on the Watchtower database. But I definitely tried to highlight like all their best, or not best roles, but definitely their most renowned stuff. So for Tara Strong, she's done a bunch of Marvel Universe stuff as well, and so I definitely didn't skip that. But we do these episodes on these voice actors in particular because of their DCAU prominence.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because I would say that because of their first involvement was with the DCAU. Like I believe it was Paul Williams for how he was the first voice for the Penguin in the animated series, and then
Hmm.
even recently just did the voice for Brainiac in Red Sun.
Oh yeah, that's right. He's not on my list. I should add him on my casting call list. He'd be a great one to do an episode for.
That's one of the actors I feel like that should have definitely returned for a movie because not that in mind the replacement for Penguin in Mystery of the Batwoman, but
That's right. I forget who they replaced him with though. Do you know off the top of your head?
I know the actor. I can never pronounce his name right, but David Olgan Stiers is. I'm not sure that's how you pronounce it, but
Hmm.
he was a bad guy voice in Pocahontas, as well as
Okay,
Solivar in Justice League.
that's right. I love Mystery of the Batwoman. I think that doesn't get enough credit sometimes. It's a fun one.
Yeah, definitely. I actually just saw it recently on Blu-ray, and
Nice.
I'll admit it may not be quite high in popularity with such a dramatic tension as other movies, but it's a pretty creative mystery run, especially with a character that didn't have much of a comic book presence until 3 years later after that movie premiered.
Yeah, and it's I mean, it's not even the same character because this was like three different women who took turns being Batwoman and none of them were actually from the comic books before. They were all created just for the movie. So it was instead of Kate Kane, who's the Batwoman we know from the CW show, and she was the one that was created for the 52 weekly series and then sort of became like a hit from there. But this was like Kathy Duquesne was her name, so she was like a reference to even the Golden Age Batwoman, who was Kathy Kane. So it's all like self-referential in that way, but they were technically original characters.
It makes me wonder if in the Adventures Continue, will one of those three ever dress up as Batwoman that resembles more of the recent costume, so to speak?
That could be fun. The Adventures Continue timeline is so funny. Every new chapter that comes out, me and James and Maddie at the Watchtower Database just like rattle our heads over when is this happening? Like when in the timeline can we fit this? And every issue it changes. Like after reading there was a new one that came out today. Actually, today is Thursday, June. What's the date? June 18th. All
Yep.
the days are running together for me for coronavirus. So there's a new issue that came out today that has a line from Robin. Tim Drake says that he's only been working for Batman for a little less than a year. And so that like puts a whole like we have to reshuffle everything now, like knowing that information. Whereas the chapter before that came out 2 weeks ago, there was Deathstroke mentions 9/11 having happened in the DC animated universe, which is, in the real world happened in 2001. So now we're looking at these sort of little details and just we're banging our heads against the wall right now to figure out how that goes together.
I see. So I guess for one issue, it could happen during Batman's like initial time with the Justice League, or it could happen like
Yeah,
maybe within halfway through TNBA.
most of our research has found that the new Batman adventures had like basically started in 1999 and kind of finished out in early 2000, and then the Justice League show started in late 2000, and Starcrossed happened in like spring of 2002. So there's kind of a 2 year period for the original Justice League show there. So yeah, it could either be like right after the Justice League formed, like sometime around like season 1, season 2, or it could be like the tail end of the new Batman adventures. That's kind of where we're leaning right now. Is it's like okay, we're assuming that it's after most of the new Batman adventures, but before Justice League right now. So that seems to be the comfortable spot. It's just that 9/11 reference that is making things complicated. So as long as the creative team doesn't mention the Justice League existing at all, we should be good to go. But we'll see what happens.
But it makes me wonder though if they're gonna add like Hush as well, or at least implement some type of one of his storylines into the DCU.
Yeah, I'd love to see Hush. The assumption is that they're bringing in all the different because it's this comic only exists because of the toy line that DC Direct is putting out. First, they were like, "Oh, we're gonna do these animated action figures in the style of the DCAU." So they did Red Hood, Azrael, Deathstroke, and then for later waves, we have seen that they're gonna do a Hush figure, and they're gonna do Batman Who Laughs, and a vampire Batman from like the Red Rain universe, and Talon from the Court of Owls. So there's a bunch of really cool characters that could come into these comics, but we're almost halfway through. There's going to be 7 full issues of this series, and they've been splitting it up into 2 parts per issue for the digital versions. So that means there's probably going to be about 14 chapters overall for the digital chapters. And so chapter 6 just came out, which means we've got 8 more. The next 2 we can assume are, well, we know for sure is going to feature Azrael. It's in a story arc called The Wrath of Azrael. So that's gonna put us through chapters 7 and 8, leaving us only 6 more to go. So if they're gonna bring in Hush and Batman Who Laughs and whoever, there's not a whole lot more room to do. But maybe they'll do a like another series afterwards, bringing in more of those characters. We'll see. I've got a theory. I personally think right now that Jason Todd that we've seen following the Bat family around and everything is from a parallel universe, and we might get a page or two with like sort of a big information dump about the multiverse, and maybe see like the Batman Who Laughs and the Vampire Batman all like kind of there in a collage, just as a like look at all these Batman from the parallel and Flashpoint Batman. He's gonna have an
Yeah, I was
action
gonna
figure.
say that.
Yeah, so that he could also be there on that page just as a multiverse collage. That's just my theory right now because it doesn't seem like the Bat family remember Jason Todd. Um, but he seems really familiar with them. So I'm thinking he might be from a parallel world.
Yeah, because I remember in the interviews they said that they skipped Jason Todd because they do that because then they have to try and implement like what happened because the writers like to kind of be more creative with doing their own take on Batman. They like to stay true to the comics in some ways.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so in that case, like, are we gonna see the death in the family events like as a flashback? Like, and if so, why has Batman never brought this up? Like, why don't Batgirl and Nightwing remember Jason Todd at all? Um, yeah, these are valid questions. I think. We'll see what happens when they run into each other for the first time.
Agree, because at least for Batman Last, that would definitely be a parallel universe because that's pretty much how the character got started from the beginning,
Yeah,
anyway.
there's no other way for him to exist. And Flashpoint Batman, technically, as well as Vampire. Well, Vampire Batman doesn't have to be from a parallel universe necessarily, but um, if he turned into a vampire and then became normal again, for instance. But
Yeah, because so far in the DCAU, I've never seen like Batman really got mutated or anything. Like I think the closest we've seen is just I think in JLU when Grodd was doing that ridiculous plan of turning people into gorillas.
yes, he did turn into a gorilla. Um, I was about to say he turned into a pig, but that was Wonder Woman. She turned into a pig, so not Batman. Um, there was something that kind of throws a loop in my theory is the Dark Knight Returns armor that we see in the first chapter that Batman Adventures Continue is firmly part of the DCAU. Whereas the action figure, you can actually take the helmet off and see Bruce Wayne under the helmet, and he's got these gray temples to imply that, like, oh, this is an older Bruce Wayne. This is actually the Dark Knight Returns version of Batman. So there's like another instance where it seems like a parallel reality from the toy line, but it was used a little differently for the cartoon or for the comic book.
Yeah, quite possibly. Plus, I figured for figured that'd be more of using like the exosuit or at least a prototype version of the exosuit that we saw in Batman Beyond.
Yeah, yeah, it would be the one that he used when fighting Ink in Disappearing Ink. The one that put a strain on his heart. It would be cool to see that version. I want to use that version in Legacies, the webcomic that I write for the Watchtower Database. Want to talk about Legacies for a minute? Seems like a
Sure,
good segue.
definitely,
um,
yeah. Because
uh,
I was curious to see like where we're gonna go from here because so far we've been seeing all different time periods, whether it's like
yes,
midway to Beyond, like with the new Justice League, with Starfire now part of the roster, and also the 3 scientists that would become Cobra. um, Cuvier, and I forgot the third person.
It was the father of Derek Powers.
Surprising from what I saw, Warren was actually not so cold blooded. It seems like the mother was more ruthless.
Yes, a little bit. She's kind of um what's the word? She's definitely mean. um I've loved the so Jerry Powers is actually a character from Scott Snyder's Batman comics that he did in the New 52. She was a character who popped up just a little bit. Do you remember they called it the Chappie Batman at the time? It was this robot Batman armor that Jim Gordon used that looked a bit like a bunny rabbit. So Jerry Powers created that in the comic books.
Huh. Yeah, because I never paid too much attention to that one because I don't know. I felt weird the fact that with how I mean, it's kind of just with that with Jim Gordon being Batman in the suit and Superman being
It
depowered.
was a weird time for DC Comics. I kind of skipped most of the story arcs too. Um, but I do really love in Legacies the relationship between the Powers family and like how Derek is such a suck up to his mom. In the two instances that we've seen, there's the asylum issue where he's a young boy and he meets Bruce Wayne and throws up on his shoes because he's sick that day, which is like a really funny, really insulting moment there. But then you also see Derek as a young adult in our recent 2019 pre-birth issue where it takes place like just minutes before the events of the Batman Beyond Rebirth opening scene with Bunny Vreeland being kidnapped. So it has been really fun to sprinkle in the Powers family and sort of like give them a little more history and characterization and whatnot. But yeah, to tease a little bit of what's coming, there are we had plans to put out six special issues last year for 2019 that were going to be set in that year, and we only put out two. So the two were the one where Veronica Vreeland is revealed to be one of the Imperium soldiers, and then the later issue was the one that you mentioned with the new Justice League. Starfire's there on the roster, and Snapper Carr is revealed to be one of the Imperium soldiers in the crowd. And that the very end of that issue, they look up in the sky and there's the same ship from issue number one, where Terry McGinnis and Bruce Wayne are running around trying to get Cronus's help. And there's a ship invading Gotham at the very end. It's the same ship, even though that's like 40 years apart. You're right to notice that we've been jumping around a bunch of different timelines in the DCAU. They're not, they're all part of the same universe, not parallel universes or anything, but we're definitely skipping around time. And that is something that James Strecker, who's been doing the art on most of the issues, he doesn't like that. He really wanted to do the series chronologically, but I kind of knew as we were developing it, I was like, we're gonna want to tell certain stories like sooner than later, and it's just gonna make more sense to be able to have that freedom to jump around into different eras. Yeah.
Agree. Because I mean, look what happened when these shows started airing. Like halfway through Superman, we got Batman Beyond. So we were seeing like what's happening in the present, then the future, and then between
Hmm.
Justice League, Static Shock, and even the at least second season of the Zaya Project, there was all kinds of like different time jumps, so to speak.
That's true. And so it's really sort of in the tradition of the DCAU to have time jumps. But yeah, for legacies reasons, it's just because there are certain stories that we wanted to tell at a certain time. We really wanted, so the 2019, the pre birth issue came out on the exact day that we identified as being the day that Batman retired. Bruce retired as being Batman in the DCAU. So ever since we launched Legacies, that was a date that we really wanted to hit, no matter what. And so it was really cool that we were able to do that. But the next couple of issues, because we had six planned for last year and we only put out two, we're working on the next four right now simultaneously. So they're all still set in the year 2019, but three of them are actually set before the most recent issue that we put out with the new Justice League lineup. So there are three chapters that happened before that, and then the last chapter follows that issue immediately. So we'll see exactly like the next couple minutes that happen after that ship appeared in the sky. Um, so that's then yeah. I'm trying to think if I can tease things any further. Two of those issues are going to be Gotham City based, so we'll get to see more of we're going to have a focus on Commissioner Gordon and see him retire and what Gotham Police Department kind of does in the final days of Batman. We'll get to see a couple of villains that were prominent in Batman Beyond get their sort of like their first start in Gotham City, particularly the Jokers. I'm going to show the very first night the Jokers gang ever appeared. One of the Jokers is going to look like Captain Clown, so that's a lot of fun.
Good
There's
old
an
Captain Clown.
yeah, everyone loves Captain Clown. There's going to be the Royal Flush Gang. So we'll see the guy who was king of the Royal Flush Gang in Batman Beyond. He'll be Jack in this version. So yeah, that's going to be a fun one. That's being drawn by Mark Daniel Martinez right now, and he's pretty close to finishing it. So that's going to be the next one that we'll put out real soon. I can't tell you like an exact date because I don't know, but the art is at least halfway there.
Of course.
The other ones, there's an issue that I'm calling Mosaic, which is carrying on John Stewart's story arc, because you've seen in the previous issue we put out, he now goes by the name Mosaic, which is a reference to the comic series that he headlined in the early 90s called Green Lantern Mosaic. So he is no longer a Green Lantern, and he's working um, sort of similar to Oracle. He's got like a series of computer monitors, and he's just digesting information and trying to help heroes from the seat of his computer lab, basically. And so we get to see how that new how this new character component sort of plays out with the rest of the Justice League, and what happened, and like we kind of get some hints about why he's no longer Green Lantern. Hawk Girl is missing, so there's a bit of a mystery there, um, and she's been missing for like a decade. And then there's a cool fight scene between the Overmaster and the Cadre, who's a very obscure Justice League villain from the Detroit era from the 1980s. So it's fun to see that guy sort of do what he's gonna do. I'm trying to like tell this, like give you enough spoiler based material without saying too much at the same time.
Oh, yeah, of
Um,
course. Though I imagine it's going to be quite an interesting jump because when I first saw this Royal Flush Gang, they were like presented as quote unquote the aristocrats of crime. But then we get to
yes.
just the Justice League version, it's more like pretty much like a rogue X-Men group, pretty much.
Yeah, basically. And then there was another version in the epilogue flashback where Batman sits with Ace as she's dying, and she had like just transformed people and to be her new Royal Flush Gang. So we'll actually see one of those people continue to be in this version of the gang as well.
Okay, so that would probably start the change of being more aristocratical.
Yes, it's gonna be the we actually have a vanishing point episode on Watchtower Database about the Royal Flush King. You should watch that. There's a character who was in the epilogue version who's got this long blonde hair, and she like uses her hair as a whip basically. So we kind of theorized in that vanishing point video that she could be one of the Walker family that we see in Batman Beyond. So that's sort of what we're gonna imply in this issue. And I'm not going to spoil this, but we have a really fun character who is going to be the king of the Royal Flush Gang that we've seen before in a like he wasn't a part of the Royal Flush Gang, but now he is. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. Um,
Interesting.
what else can I say? There's the final issue set in 2019 is going to give a lot of answers as to what's going on with the Imperium soldiers, with the ship in the sky. We're going to actually learn whose ship that is. And we'll get to see a lot more of the Justice League from the era that I set up in the most recent issue.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Should be interesting because I never thought we would see like the Imperium again ever since well the first three episodes of Justice League.
I love writing the Imperium too. They've been a lot of fun to bring back, and I'm like really expanding on on their history too. I've got some really fun things in the works with them, and so those are basically the next issue we put out is going to be issue number. I think it's number 10. It might be number 11, but I'm working on the script for number 30. So I'm really far ahead in terms of my script writing. I'm like 20 issues ahead of the art right now, which is great. It's a really good place for me to be. But that just means I got a lot of stuff that I want to tell in this Legacy series, that I really hope that we can speed things up here pretty soon and get to that. The most recent issue that I'm working on right now is finally telling the story of how Static meets the Titans. Batman told him he'd meet them someday, and that is this day. So it's been fun to be working on that one.
Very cool, because I mean, Stag does become a member of the Titans, at least in the comics wise.
Yeah, and it's actually in a series called Terror Titans that he first was introduced to them, and that series is really influencing the story arc that I'm writing. In that series, there's Clock King is the main villain, and he's kind of created a like, basically it's like roulette's meta brawl, but like with teenagers. So he's using superpowered teenagers to fight each other, and so in the one I'm writing, Tim Drake escapes an actual meta brawl. Roulette's back. It is Roulette who's putting this on. Tim Drake escapes it. The rest of the Titans are kidnapped, and he goes to Static and Gear's apartment to ask for their help, basically. So they have to infiltrate the meta brawl, free the Titans, and there's also a bunch of Bang Babies that are involved in this meta brawl as well. So Bang Babies,
Gotcha.
Titans, Tim Drake, Static and Gear fighting Roulette. That's the one I'm working on.
Very nice. So they're pretty much in college right now.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. Static and Gear are in college. Tim Drake is, as of like the Legacies issue Asylum that we released already, that's the one with Killer Croc. Tim Drake is thinking about applying to college. So he's college age as well. But I haven't decided yet if he's actually like enrolled right now. He might be doing the superhero thing full time still.
Gotcha. Well, it sounds like a lot of crazy stuff going to be coming out this year, so can't wait
I
to
hope
see how it
so.
goes.
The that Titan Static one definitely won't be this year because it's 20 issues ahead right now in terms of legacies. But I hope the other ones that do come out this year will be great.
Oh yeah, I guess you could say for like the Imperium Return saga that would probably at least be out this year.
Yes, those yeah, we'll definitely get some answers in terms of what they're up to.
But speaking of big time wars, what are your thoughts on the Justice League movie Apocalypse War?
I had a lot of fun with it. It is definitely gratuitously violent. There's a lot of favorite characters that meet some really nasty ends in this movie, but at the same time, that was part of the fun of it was that it was so unpredictable. Like knowing that, like, okay, they're treating this as a final chapter of this universe, so anything could happen. Like most of the movies, you can kind of assume, like, okay, Batman's obviously not going to die because they're going to put out another Batman movie at some point.
Yeah,
But yeah, this one you have no idea what's going to happen, and I found that really
agreed.
refreshing. Like it was loosely based off the Dark Side War comic that was released. I think it was 2016. It was like right before DC Rebirth. Um, Loosely based just because it had like Batman was in the Mobius chair in this movie, and that's where that was based off of. But there was no Anti Monitor like there was in the comic book. That had nothing to do with this movie. Um, and also a lot of the Justice League that um, the film starts off with them attacking Apocalypse, and later we realize that they've been converted into like these robot new gods that are working for
Oh yeah,
Darkseid now. Yeah, and that's very visually based off of the Future's End comic series from the New 52. There was the very first issue of that actually featured at Justice League. It was set like 5 years in the future, so it's like a future that never actually comes to be. But the OMAC project and Brother Eye and the OMACs are basically taking over the world, and they basically augment the Justice League to look just like the robots that we've seen in the Apocalypse War movie. So it's definitely
yeah,
pulling from a bunch of different uh, previous storylines from the comic books.
yeah. It's crazy how they done that with the New 52 movies. Like how at the beginning they were definitely being more strict to the source material, but then after I would say at least,
I think Bad Blood might have been the change.
yeah, around there.
Yeah, Justice League versus Teen Titans, I think, was the first like new story that they really embrace.
Yeah, because that one definitely felt like they were using like older storylines with Raven
Mm-hmm.
and Trigon, then doing the Jews contract, the death of Superman, which I think is a very appreciative, full on adaptation of the story.
Oh yeah, I loved it. And Batman Hush too, even though it's not a very faithful adaptation, but for the most part, like it gets the most of the highlights there. Um, but I found myself really enjoying the latter half of this universe more so than the New 52 stuff at the beginning.
Oh
And
yeah, definitely.
Apocalypse War especially like even it was just really cool to see all the different plot threads from the last couple of years, like Suicide Squad Hell to Pay. That ended up being really important to this film. Um, and yeah, especially all the Teen Titans movies, like with Raven and Robin's relationship, all that coming to the forefront here. It felt like the best payoff that they could have done for this movie universe.
Definitely, especially for what they did with bringing Trigon versus Darkseid. Because I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I've not read a lot of comics, but I don't know if they ever went toe to toe like that before. I mean,
Not that I can think of. It's very possible that's happened, but Trigon is not a character that you really see often in these like big mega crossovers. Like he pretty much sticks with the Teen Titans. Like you'll read about him in a Teen Titans book, is what I'm trying to say. Like he
oh yeah, of
won't just
course.
suddenly appear in Infinite Crisis or something like that. But so yeah, that's kind of a new thing. And seeing him possess Superman was a really cool moment. That was a great Superman design where he's possessed by Trigon. Um, and speaking of Superman, I really loved his kryptonite tattoo that dampened his powers. I thought that was a really interesting plot device, and it just looked really cool and creepy.
Yeah, and even when he was like returning normal, he still had some gray hair on the back.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Um, and Constantine being a main character here is a lot of fun. I remember like when I first started getting into comic books, Constantine was not part of the DC universe. He was like off in Vertigo land with Swamp Thing, and it was only until DC did their Brightest Day comic series that brought Constantine back into their universe. They're at the very end. So it was like 2011 was like when Constantine finally rejoined the DC universe, and he's been a great character to have there ever since.
Okay,
In
so it
these
wasn't
movies,
just the New 52
yeah,
then.
yeah, the New 52 basically like he was brought in right before the New 52, but the New 52 is what like made him up. Like it gave him his own book again. He was the leader of the Justice League Dark. So by the New 52, he was like firmly in the DC universe.
I see. Well, it's a shame that this universe has ended, but
I'm not convinced that it's the end end. It definitely it seems like it probably is actually. But anything can happen. Especially in the DC animated original movie line, like they seem to be able to do whatever they want there.
yeah,
Um
pretty much.
yeah, which is great. Like I love that. Like Bruce Timm and all the other people involved there have really like fought for their creative freedom. They're just making those types of movies, so they're able to do things like Apocalypse War or bring back the DCAU for Batman, Harley Quinn, and Fatal Five. Um, yeah, it's and they're obviously not done making movies, so
Oh
it's
yeah,
just a
no.
matter of like, are we going to have a new sort of animated universe that might be uh, coming out of the new Superman Man of Steel, or not Man of Steel, Man of Tomorrow movie. So that could start a new one. There's a few other characters that are going to be in that movie, like Lobo and Martian Manhunter. So um, yeah, that could be a start of something new. They have been teasing this upcoming Batman film called Soul of the Dragon that's coming out next year in 2021, and there's a lot of rumors that that's going to be a Bruce Timm animated style film, like a return to Batman the animated series. So that could be really amazing if that happens. The description has confirmed that Soul of the Dragon is going to feature Bronze Tiger, Lady Shiva, um, Richard Dragon. Those might be the main guys. But it's cool that Lady Shiva's going to be part of it because she was name dropped in the Batman and Harley Quinn movie, which is what makes me think that because Argus name drops Lady Shiva in that movie for like a second, but like maybe that was them being sly, like already knowing that like, oh, we're gonna bring her into Batman's Soul of the Dragon in a couple years.
Yeah, maybe we'll see what's happening in End of Parbat.
I hope so. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's gonna the promo and trailer is gonna be obvious if it's gonna be DCAU or not.
Yeah, because Lady Shiva is definitely an underused character.
Yeah. Oh, she's a lot of fun. She I just read the Deceased Unkillables series that was spun off of the main Deceased comic book is where the DC universe has a zombie apocalypse. And Lady Shiva is so much fun in the Unkillables series. She's I didn't realize she was Cassandra Cain's mother. Is that common that she's the mom? I feel like I should have known that.
Yeah, that was. I think that's pretty much how it was set when Cassandra Cain first appeared, at least
Yeah,
around there.
I think it
So
is. That's
so
just something I forgot, but I thought that was cool. Yeah, she's got like a twisted sense of honor, but I mean, she's badass. She's just a badass assassin. She's in like there with Deathstroke and everybody, just as powerful.
because I feel like she was killed like too easily in Apocalypse War.
Um, Lady Shiva. Oh yeah, I forgot she was in Apocalypse War.
Yeah, like she was
Totally
she
forgot.
briefly yeah because she briefly appeared in Hush, and
Mm-hmm.
then made an appearance in the Apocalypse War, but was not enough screen time, which showed that she can't beat Etrigan, and which that makes sense because Etrigan's
Yeah,
pretty much an unkillable demon.
he was one of my favorite parts of Apocalypse War, but Etrigan's one of my favorite characters in general.
Oh yeah, it was just funny the fact that he was not rhyming at all.
Mm-hmm. That's I wrote Etrigan into an issue of Legacies. It's one of those in the middle of the 20 that I mentioned earlier. And I tried really hard to make all of his dialogue rhyme, even though he doesn't in the DCAU. Um and James Trekker, the like as he's editing the issues, he's like, why does he have to rhyme every single time? He doesn't have to like don't make him rhyme every time. But I worked really hard on those rhymes. So the rhymes that are there are gonna be great.
Gotcha. Yeah, because this was funny because I think the only
He's
time
so
he
fun to
ever
write.
really rhymed is only in his first episode appearance, but just before he took away Clarion.
Yeah, yeah, the oh, what's that one called? The Demon Within, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because I've
Yeah.
been rewatching some of these episodes on Blu-ray, so it's interesting how things start and how they evolved over time.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have them on Blu-ray, but I have been watching them in high definition on the DC Universe streaming app. So that's almost just as good.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same quality, but hopefully with Lady Shiva, she'll get to shine a little bit more in Young Justice. For there's
Yeah,
rumors that the fourth season is going to premiere this October.
really. That's a fast turnaround. Well, I mean, I only say that because it was like 6 years in between season 2 and 3. But they weren't working on it that entire.
Yeah, so my guess is that I think for future DC movies, we're probably not going to see Phil Barassa's animation style, at least not for a while, because he was probably. I think after he finished Apocalypse War, he was probably working on the fourth season of Young Justice.
Yeah. Um, I was also really impressed how quickly the Harley Quinn animated series had a season 2. Like that
Oh
was a
yeah,
super fast. Like it premiered in I think October. Season 2 came out in like February. Maybe that's wrong, but it feels
no.
close.
Season one finished in February, then season two started right after April Fool's Day.
Okay, wow, that's really fast. But I've really been enjoying that show.
Same. It's just crazy how they're turning things around with everything, even making Mr. Freeze funny and compelling at the same time. I feel like
That was one of the best
that
episodes.
that's what he should have been like in Batman and Robin.
Yeah, but I give like well, I don't know. I was gonna say Batman and Robin like the new like version of Mister Freeze that Paul Dini basically created hadn't been around long enough, but no, that's not an excuse. They should have known better.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, I hope we see the Phil Barassa style again. But you're right. It probably isn't going to be until Young Justice season 4.
Yeah,
But
because I have a theory on how season 4 might go along. If
hey, what's your theory?
I think that given the fact that we've seen baby Damien and baby Jonathan,
Mm-hmm.
and this is probably going to be like at the very end of the season, or maybe like a series finale, is that there'd be a time jump at the last episode where Dick is Batman, and perhaps Connor with fully embrace his Kryptonian side again without drugs becomes the next Superman. So that way, Jonathan and Damien can be the next Robin and Superboy.
That's possible. Especially like in the comic books, it seemed like Damien and John, like during their Super Sons series, for the most part, were like 9 and 10 years old. So yeah, if they're babies now, I mean that's like a 8 or 9 year jump, but it could happen. So
Yeah, so this way it has a touch of like the rebirth, but also from pre 52 when Dick was Batman for a while.
hmm absolutely. I'd like to see that. And I definitely agree. Like they wouldn't have teased these characters if that wasn't a plan, down the road. But I really want to see more of like Tim Drake and Cassie Sandsmark's Wonder Girl, and like those characters like really shine. I just feel like we didn't get enough of that in season three.
Yeah, because the focus was more like with the apocalyptic and new god characters as well as with
And
the
I mean, it was Outsiders show for season three, so that other team just wasn't really a focus. But not to say I didn't enjoy it. Like I still really like the Outsiders story arc and everything, and it was still a lot of fun.
definitely. As far as this fourth season, we're probably going to be seeing what the Legionnaire is going to be like.
Yeah, because there was that Saturn Girl's the waitress.
Yeah, that's probably Saturn Girl. I mean, I can't think of any other blondes as part
hmm
with the Legion.
And that was a bit of a DC Rebirth sort of thing because in DC Rebirth, Saturn Girl was in Arkham Asylum for a couple of years, like up until Doomsday Clock, where she realized who she was. And by the end of Doomsday Clock, the history of the Legion was reinstated.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar with what they did with Starboy in the Fatal Five movie.
It was very similar. Yeah, I gotta wonder if that was inspired at all by that, but I kind of doubt it. I think they were being written at about the same time.
Yeah, probably more or less. So things are coming up, which reminds me that next year all the CW shows are going to be pretty much premiering with their next seasons, including the new show Superman and Lois.
That's right. That looks good. I like what I've seen of those actors in the previous crossovers, like Crisis and Elseworlds. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm like, I don't know, something about the CW. I think it's just the tone of the shows has just kind of lost me. Like, comic books are always like kind of cheesy by nature, but the CW just like takes it up a notch. That um, I don't know. I just got kind of like bored of after a while. I hate to say it, um, just personally, but that's not to
You're not
say
the
that
only
there's not
one.
good stuff in there. I've watched almost all of Arrow, and it's just like the last 2 years or so that I've fizzled out of the Flash, and I never really gave Black Lightning a chance. Or Legends of Tomorrow, I watched the first 2 seasons, and Batwoman, I watched a couple of random episodes, and Supergirl is another one that I never truly got into. So I can't speak to all the shows. Maybe I mean I'm sure they're great. Otherwise, they wouldn't keep working on them.
Of course, yeah. It's just I haven't really been catching up with much of these shows. Like I think right now it's just mostly Flash and Legends because I like the time travel stuff. It's kind of funny, especially involving
Mm-hmm.
with magic.
And Constantine's a main character there now, right? In
Yeah,
Legends.
pretty much. Yeah, pretty
That's
much.
fun. That's pretty
So,
fun.
so this way we
Um,
get to see the more the magical aspect of things. Even like for fifth season, dealing with I think they called them like encores, like pretty much any kind of bad guys from back from hell.
mm, that's fun. I don't know those characters. They might be new, but um, Batwoman left the show. We'll talk about
Yep.
that. What do you think about that?
I'm a little bit disappointed because I never heard of anyone leaving the show after one season.
Yeah, she must have not liked the reviews she was getting or something. Um, Ruby Rose is the
Yeah,
actress's name who played Batwoman.
yeah. From what I read, I guess there was some. There's always been some backlash, even when she was just first casted, where she had to turn off her Twitter account.
Hmm. Which I don't think is fair. She's a good actress for the most part. Like, I have nothing against her. I think the first time I saw her was in Orange Is the New Black, and she played a great character in that show. I thought she was a great fit for Batwoman, and the episodes I saw with her were great. So, and I have to wonder if she had a contract in place that she broke by quitting. Um, because usually you're kind of booked for a few seasons.
Yeah, like for Grant Gustin, like he's booked for 7 seasons straight, and then after that, it's up to
They
him whether he want.
renegotiate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I'm not sure if she was dealing with. I believe, and I'm not sure this is completely true, but I believe there's some mental issues that she was dealing with, and I guess she was not fully prepared to be a series lead in the show before. So I guess it was just a whole different experience. Because I remember for Stephen Amell, after he finished Arrow, he had a bit of a panic attack while on a podcast himself.
That's right. I heard about that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine what that level of fame is like. Just like being such an important person to a huge amount of people, who follow your show, sometimes religiously, and so like going to Comic Cons or something, meeting the fans, like yeah, I wonder if he got a panic attack because it was like, what am I doing? Should I have quit the show because I love the show so much, or what? But I also kind of imagine that he, just from my take, I don't think he was very happy with the way that Oliver Queen's character was laid to rest in Crisis.
Oh yeah,
Um,
because of filming schedules. Like I think with his first death,
yeah,
he
there were
only
multiple.
yeah, he had to do it just with almost nobody around because they had to do like filming scenes for other episodes. So
Yeah, that's right. So in that way, it's like a lot less, like the reaction is a lot less personal. And I'm sure it's a lot less personal of a moment for him while he's acting in it. Like he would have um, probably benefited from having all those characters actually there with him.
agreed. But
Well,
oh well, I'm not.
best wishes to Ruby Rose. Good to get out of a situation that wasn't working for her. I wonder if they're going to recast her or rebrand the show in some way. If I
Well,
were working on the show, I would make Batwing the main character and just elevate Luke Fox as the main character.
yeah, because I had a feeling that was bound to happen once I saw that Luke Fox was going to be involved. Like, yeah, we're going to see Batwing, but from
Hmm.
what I've read up, they're actually going to replace the character with someone else being Batwoman.
With a new Batwoman.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
so they're not going to kill off Kate Kane. She's just going to be disappeared, and supposedly it's due to Scarecrow for some reason.
okay. Hmm.
And I suppose he's also the murderer of this new character's mother. That would motivate her to become the
Okay.
next
Well,
Batwoman.
that, yeah, this must be a new character then, because that doesn't really remind me of anything I've read in the comics before. Even though it would be kind of cool to see like other Batwomans from the past, or I mean, most of them are called like Kate Kane or Kathy Kane or something. But you could bring in like some of the ones from Mystery of the Batwoman that we mentioned earlier, like Kathy Duquesne or um, Sandra Ballantyne, whatever her name is,
Oh yeah,
um,
Roxy Valentine and
Roxy Ballantyne,
Sonia
Sonia.
Alcana are,
That's right, you got it.
and I'm sure I
Um,
pronounced her name right.
yeah, they could come in as potential characters. That'd be kind of a cool reference. We're even bringing in like Stephanie Brown, who's spoiler, or Cassandra Kane, maybe not so much just because her last name is another variation of Kane, so that could be weird. But yeah, I don't
Agreed.
know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Plus the way how season one ended it, because didn't watch every episode, but from what I saw that they already introduced Hush, and they're using the storyline where his face has been surgically changed to resemble Bruce Wayne.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's Paul Dini wrote that originally. It's called The Heart of Hush.
Oh yes, I remember that. And for the actor for Bruce Wayne, it's I believe the actor's name is Warren Chris. So it's a somewhat younger Batman actor than
Then
Kevin
Kevin
Conroy's.
Conroy. Yeah.
Yeah,
So you think we'll see him play like actual Bruce Wayne later in the show?
possibly. Because supposedly for season two, there's going to be a mystery involving what happened with Kay Kane. Like, what did
The
Scarecrow.
mystery of the Batwoman?
I see what you did there, yeah. But hopefully we get to see like what happened with Bruce Wayne, because so far from what I've seen with clips of the show, that this Batman actually killed Joker. I think I have to look
Hmm.
at. So that might have had something to do with it, because
So maybe he's Batman Who Laughs? No. That's
quite
what happened to
possible.
him.
Yeah, quite possibly. Maybe because like maybe after killing Joker, he got injected with something and he had to pretty much leave because no one really knows where
Hmm.
where he is, where he went, or it's just a
That's
big
interesting.
mystery. It always seems to involve the Joker when Batman disappears. They did that with Birds of Prey, and that's not even with him killing the Joker, just after what Joker did to Catwoman and Batgirl.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, well, Joker's as big as a villain. There's nobody else quite like the Joker. It's just personal.
Yeah, a shame that Joker's dead though in the Arrowverse, because I would like to see how they would have done it, but I don't know if it would do justice because
Well, Harley Quinn was in the Arrowverse for that one little blink and you miss it moment with the Suicide Squad.
yeah, but that was just mostly hearing Tara Strong's voice.
Yeah. In the casting call episode I wrote, she's like I found out she was credited as unhinged female prisoner or something. That's like what she's called in the credits.
Of course, they didn't want to be too obvious with Bat villains, at least the
Mm,
big names anyway.
true. Well, what else we got to talk about? Or
Oh yeah, we forgot like the crying jewel. I would say for recent DC TV shows, Stargirl.
Stargirl. Yes, I love Stargirl. Um, but Starman from the 1990s was one of my favorite comic book series, like ever. Um, and so this show is taking a lot from that, and it's even got James Robinson, who's a writer on that series. He's one of the show writers of Stargirl. But obviously, it's based off Jeff Johns' Stars and Stripes comic that um, was it kind of launched at the end of the Starman run, and Starman in particular ends with that character of Jack Knight passing down the Star Rod to Courtney Whitmore. So it's a little different in this that she like finds the rod and everything in Pat Dugan's like basement, but but in Stars and Stripes, she like it's the same story, but she doesn't have the rod yet. Like the rod comes to her a couple like a year or so into her career.
Gotcha. So it's pretty much like the Green Lantern ring in a way, where it's sentient.
Well, it's not in the comic books. That's like the first time I've seen it like sort of have a mind of its own. It reminds me a lot, yeah, a bit like a Green Lantern ring, but also kind of like the magic carpet from Aladdin, like the
Oh yeah,
cartoon where he's
yeah.
yeah, it's just like silently like or Doctor Strange's cape.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah, so much personality without even saying a word.
Yeah, exactly. Which is fun. I like that aspect. But I think some of the most fun moments of the show has been like seeing Solomon Grundy. He's been a lot of like every time he pops up, I always cheer because he looks like just like he did out of the Justice League animated series or something. Like he's like the Hulk, which is awesome. So
Yeah,
there's
pretty
that.
much. Yeah, even the Gotham version of Grundy, it kind of reminded me a little bit of the Justice League anime series. Kind of with looks, I mean, being relatively big and talking a
Yeah,
little bit dumb.
exactly. Although in the Starman comic, that the show's like sort of loosely playing with, Grundy became a main character because he was reincarnated as like a kind-hearted version of Grundy. He was like skinny, he had long hair, and he was really nice. He just wanted to be friends with people, and so he ended up
Really?
like the kind version of Grundy was a main character for a while until he died again and was reincarnated as an evil version. Um, but I
That's
wonder
a
if
shame.
they'll try to tackle that plot thread later in the show.
With this show, you never you never know. They'll pull almost anything.
Hmm.
It feels so classic in a way, but still modern at the same time.
I asked James Robinson about a year ago when Stargirl was in production if the Shade was going to be a main character because he was one of my favorite parts of the Starman comic, and he definitely said not so much in season one. Although I think we have seen him in the poster for the Injustice Society. I think the Shade is there, um, but he said like maybe more in season two. So Shade's one of my favorite characters. So I really hope we do see him in season two. But so far, in Stargirl, Wildcat I think is my favorite. Um, Yolanda Martinez. That version of Wildcat has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. Her story definitely caught my attention. I think.
And that episode was the first one that James Robinson wrote.
Yeah, a little soap opera-ish,
Yeah, but
but
that
not too.
that's comic book shows for you though. Like they really are soap operas, but with superpowers. So
Pretty much, yeah.
it's they tricked us into watching soap operas, Brian. That's how they got us.
Pretty much, that's how they get the girls to be more invested in comics. Pretty much.
And I hope people are like, especially young girls. Like, I hope they're really paying attention to Stargirl and getting a lot out of it because I think it's a character that could be really inspiring for a lot of people, especially right now, who need the inspiration. Like, Stargirl's always been a really wholesome character, and she's based off of Jeff John's sister, who was like a star gymnast athlete who died in a plane crash when
Yeah, read
Jeff was
about
young.
that.
Yeah, and so like the character of Courtney was always based off Jeff's sister. Um, and you even see in the first episode of Stargirl, there are these pictures on a corkboard in Courtney's room, and one of them is her like with a girl, and they've got their arms around each other, and it's a photoshopped picture of Courtney with Jeff John's actual sister. Um,
Oh yeah, I figured that was her because it definitely looked a little.
yeah, it wasn't a perfect Photoshop.
Yeah.
But I
Oh
think it's
well.
really cool that they're like keeping that in the forefront of their minds and like remembering why they're there, why they're making the show, and who it's really about.
Agreed. Though I think for the shade, I feel like he's in there, but just like in the show, but only high in plain sight because so far it seems like every major person that's either the boss or councilman is either a hero or a villain. I feel like the shade, he might be like that creepy janitor that's always lurking around.
Maybe I kind of think he might be a hero though. He's definitely somebody. That janitor is somebody.
Well,
I don't know
we'll see.
who.
We'll
You want
see.
to make a guess? I'm gonna guess that he is Johnny Thunder.
Johnny Thunder, is that the one with the pen?
Yeah, he's the
'Cause-
the guy with the genie pin.
Like, what is the deal with that pen? Because all I heard is just that it just cackles and laughs. Like, is that
Yeah, it's
supposed to
a
be like another
fifth
sentient thing?
dimensional genie basically. So it's do you remember he was in Justice League Unlimited? Thunderbolt, the pink Thunderbolt thing. Like he was in a couple of background episodes. But
Okay, because
there's
I don't
Johnny
remember
Thunder
any of
and
that.
Thunderbolt. They're classic members of the Justice Society. But basically, Johnny Thunder is just a human. He's got this genie that exists in this magic pink pen, and when he says the word "say you," which is actually spelled like CEIYU, it's like a
Hmm.
magic word. He says "say you," and the genie comes out of the pen, and he'll do whatever. It's like not even a three wish thing. It's a your your wish is my command. Whatever you want me to do, I'm your genie. Let's do it. So fifth dimensional genie named Thunderbolt.
That
Yeah.
sounds like a spelled like trouble, especially since you said it's fifth
Yeah, same
dimension.
place as
So,
Mixablick, but they're like technically or Mixaspitlick. James Strecker's been really getting on to me about my pronunciation of Mr. Mixas. I can't even say it now. But so he's not like a little bald guy. Like he literally looks more like the genie from Aladdin, except he's pink and he's spiky. So
oh yeah, of course. I imagine he wouldn't look the same as Mixie, but I feel like that it could still spell trouble because I feel like for any being from the fifth dimension, they're
mhm.
just there's nothing but chaos.
They are chaotic and mischievous, and there have been story arcs from the JSA where they have to battle these fifth dimensional genies. Thunderbolt's one of the good ones, but there are a lot of bad ones too.
Oh boy. Well, this should be interesting because I'm curious to see what's the deal with the Dragon King because I never heard of a character like that, and he looked a little intimidating.
Yeah, yeah. My first thought was actually like kind of look like a KKK wizard or something. Um, Dragon King is definitely a character I've seen in the comics before, but I forget whose villain he is. I'm gonna look it up there real quick because now I'm just curious. So definitely World War II villain who fought. He fought the All Star Squadron, and then came back for the actual Stars and Stripe comic that Jeff Johns wrote. So he was, yeah, the All Star Squadron was like a team of Earth 2 based characters. Um, and like during the 1980s, they had their own series called the All Star Squadron that took place on Earth 2 during World War II. So
Okay.
that's where he came from.
But obviously, that was like before the first Crisis on Infinite Earths, right?
Like just a few years before, like probably like 3 or 4 years.
Gotcha. It's crazy how they decide to like keep it one Earth, and then they decide to like okay, let's bring it back again.
Yeah. And now with DC's newest thing, Death Metal, that the first issue just came out yesterday on June 17th. I loved it. But the main villains of it have been going from multiverse or not there's one multiverse, but they've been going parallel universe to parallel universe and just destroying the worlds. So in this issue, they someone says that they're only down to 8 worlds remaining out of the 52 that we originally knew about. So there's only 8 more surviving, and Wonder Woman is concocting these plans with Wally West and Swamp Thing to try to basically reignite the multiverse in their own image, kind of similar to how Anti Monitor did it in his own image. Parallax did it in his image in Zero Hour. Alexander Luthor and Superboy Prime did it in their image, Infinite Crisis. Um,
Yep, and so on.
yeah, and so on. There's more I could have said, but yeah. So death metal, they're kind of treating this as an anti-crisis. That's even what they call it. Where now the heroes are trying to recreate the multiverse themselves.
Man, DC really loves the word crisis.
Yes, they do. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's it's an amazing issue. I would love to talk about it more, but I don't want to spoil anything beyond that.
Eh,
It's a lot of
oh yeah,
fun.
of course. But that makes me wonder if they're going to adapt any other crisis storylines for as far as in
For
the
um
Arrowverse.
for the Arrowverse, well, there was rumors that they were going to do Identity Crisis um next fall. But the problem with that is that the original comic dealt with Sue Dibney, the wife of the Elongated Man, getting murdered by Ray Palmer's wife, Jean Loring, or his ex-wife. They were divorced. But now that Hartley Sawyer has been kicked out of the Flash show, um, I don't think that they are gonna do Identity Crisis in the same way. Like if they were gonna kill off Sue Dibney, it that doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even sure what they're going to do with that because as far as for next year, it's just going to be just between Superman and Batwoman.
Oh, okay. Huh.
Yeah, no Supergirl premiering yet. Probably not until May because right now I think Melissa Benoist is pregnant.
Oh, good. Congrats for her.
So now she's going to be Supermom.
Super mom. That's awesome. She's great. A great human being.
Definitely. One of my favorite actresses recently.
And she deserves it. Yeah, I mean, I love her portrayal of Supergirl. That's one I should catch up on.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to try to finish season 5. But as far as for Harley Sawyer, yeah, he is fired from The Flash. I'm not sure what it's going to do for Ralph Disney's character because given the fact that he can shapeshift into like any person, they might
True.
just sub in just a different actor. Although
That
I have mixed feelings on Sue Dipney's character, so to speak.
Yeah. I those are episodes I didn't watch yet, so I don't really know her portrayal in the show. I just know that they were big parts of the Identity Crisis storyline. So if they're not going to be part of it, then that storyline is going to look very different than the original comic book.
Of course. So we'll see what happens. But do you want any spoilers for Sue Dipney's character in the show?
What's she like?
Well, she's pretty much a rich girl that has escaped from home, and at least to my knowledge, she has something to do with sort of the main villain of past season for the Flash, Black Hole, which is kind of involved with creating a new Mirror Master or Mirror Mistress, so to speak.
Interesting.
And somehow she decided to pretty much run away from home and
Is
become
Black
like.
Hole Chuck at all? Like there was a character from the early 90s Flash comics who was this like kind of bigger black guy who could create a black hole out of his stomach. It's not that. Is it?
No, although I do remember
Okay.
a character like that in the Venture Brothers, though.
And maybe they've ripped it off of that. But he was like really good friends with Wally West in that early 90s run.
Well, nothing like that. But so far, I've seen a black
Okay.
hole as just this like covert operation that deals with light-based villains, like a new version of Doctor Light. I got I think two other people that had like light-based powers. The names escape me for the moment.
Okay. I'd be interested in that one actually. Um, Send me the episode title if you know it later. I'd watch that.
Gotcha. But
Um,
as far as for Sue Dipney, she's pretty much kind of like Catwoman, pretty much.
okay. That's cool. I mean, she was definitely like a rich girl in the comic books too, and it was kind of like Ralph every time was like, I don't know why she fell in love with me, but she picked me, and all right, cool.
But has she ever shown any inkling of being like a thief or anything, or manipulating people to doing what she wants, just with her
No,
charms?
but she is like a really good detective with Ralph. Um, so she would always be really helpful. She was like one of the few wives of any Justice League members who like actively like could hang out on the Watchtower and not feel out of place. So that's something she did in the Silver Age.
Well,
Yeah,
hopefully we get to see some inkling of that at some point, but we'll find out this coming January.
we will.
But that's all the time we have for today.
It's been
Thank
fun
you.
talking to you, Brian. Yeah, glad we could make this happen today. Hope you are staying healthy and safe and everything with this pandemic we find ourselves in.
Yeah, same to you. Hopefully things will keep under control in the meantime.
I want to go to Comic Cons. All my plans this year were canceled.
I know, same here. Is like, especially the big one in my home state, because there's one in August where we would have almost all the Justice League voice casts, as well
Uh,
as a few BTS voice actors. At least so far, they had Harvey and Ivy as guests.
cool. I really want to meet Susan Eisenberg in person one day. We're friends on Instagram. She likes my photos sometimes.
That
Great to meet her. But yeah. And Watchtower Database, we were ready to go to San Diego Comic Con this year. We had press passes. It was very exciting, and then that got canceled.
uh, damn. Well, hopefully you got refunded for that.
Well, we didn't pay for them. Press pass. We were just approved for them, so we were like
Ah,
able to use the press pass to go.
I see. Okay. At least for the, I think for some of the cons for next year, they're gonna bring back the same guests. So hopefully there'll be a chance to still see
That's
Kevin
what I'm hoping
Conroy,
to.
Susan Eisenberg, and all the rest.
Everything planned for 2020, just replan it for 2021.
Yeah, pretty much.
Cool. Thanks again, Brian.
No problem. Have a good night, and good night to all you viewers. Hey everybody. I want to thank you all for subscribing to my channel. For now I have reached past 5,000 subscribers. With this achievement, I'm going to make a whole new variety of videos to come. So for any of you newcomers, be sure to click the subscribe button and be the first to see new content. Take care.